The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so glad that you're here. And DJ Grady Baby Radio. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited today to have my guest, Dr. Carmela Nanton. And I'm going to pull her up and as I share with you her bio. So let's share. How are you today, Dr. Nanton?
I'm doing great, thank you, and so thankful to be here.
Yes, well, I'm so grateful that you are here. And let me just tell the audience a little bit about you. She is an author, a coach, a speaker, and a catalyst. Dr. Nanton is Chief Leadership Strategist, Executive Coach, and Consultant for Carmel Connections Incorporated in leadership, diversity, and inclusion. Fiercely focused on increasing diversity and inclusion in companies, she helps executives leverage their purpose and portfolios to accelerate, transition, and reinvent their careers. Her mission is disrupt leadership culture to move the needle of women's leadership from 5% to 30% by 2030 in all sectors for global leadership advantage. Her credentials: she is an award winning author, educator, and program designer who has earned her doctorate from Columbia University, New York, in organization and leadership. She is a board certified executive leadership business coach, and a licensed counselor, and she is ordained as a catalyst for personal and spiritual transformation, an avid sports fan and songwriter, host of the podcast Talk for Leaders, author of the award winning Hardwired to Lead Women's Leadership Series. Well, I am so honored to have you here with me today. And oh, my granddaughter is listening. Hi, Malia. It's good to have you on here with me today. Thank you for listening. And so, Dr. Nanton, now I've shared some of you, but I want you to tell us more. I know you're from Aruba, and I want you to just kind of talk about your experiences. What has led you on your journey and giving you your purpose and your passion? So I'm going to give you the floor and just let you talk.
Okay. Well, as I indicated, I am very privileged to have this space to spend the time with you. And starting in my childhood, I had the first opportunity to argue for gender equality, probably around the age of 11, with an exchange student that we had at our house. We are from Aruba. We immigrated from Aruba to the United States. We had an option to go to the Netherlands, but we had a sponsor here. And so my family brought all 7 kids and 2 parents to the United States. And the rest is history. how did I come to be involved with this? Well, from that moment that I had that conversation, it was very intense and it left an impression on me. And the impression that it left was that women's equality was in question. And because women's equality was in question, it meant that there were certain things people did not expect women to do. And leadership is one of those things. We were brought up as girls to be silent. Children are supposed to be seen and not heard. And at the end of the day, I was a talker and created problems for myself because I was talking to a friend from um, uh, years ago, and she reminded me that my mom used to tell me not to talk so much. So, anyway, God knew what He was doing. And from that experience, I have talked in a variety of places, right? In Sunday school as teacher, in organizations as trainer, in the community as both a minister and a trainer in diversity as well. So part of that training, particularly in the organization, has been in the area of advocacy, where I would advocate somehow or another. I always found myself advocating for the underdog. And women were often in that space. And as a result of that, I ended up always finding myself advocating for that. But in addition to that, I was a leader and I fast tracked because I was sharp, I was driven, and I understood what leadership was about because it was in me. And I was tapped in organizations to not only rise to the next level in rapid succession, but also to help other individuals make that same rise for themselves. Now, the respect was not always there because at the end of the day, women weren't supposed to be leading. So I led in spaces I wasn't supposed to lead in. And it meant that there was disrespect and those kinds of things with individuals not wanting to sit next to me because I was a woman and all of that. But the culmination of trying to be a leader that was acceptable in a place where I was misrecognized and grudgingly respected for what I could accomplish in terms of starting programs and building departments and all of those things. I ended up sitting at the table one day and looking around that table and recognizing that not a single soul there was going to sponsor me or back me. And I didn't like who I had become in order to get people's approval and in order to get those promotions. And at the end of the day, I left because, I think everybody can relate to the enough is enough feeling.
Yes.
And I don't like what I'm sounding like, looking like, feeling like in this space. And so that was the shift for me from working in corporate, higher ed, healthcare, government, not government, for profit, not for profit, and on boards. The shift was in that space. It was an epiphany that I had, and from that space, the Lord told me, just move.
And
And I followed Him blindly, heart beating, and had no real goal other than to remove myself from a toxic environment. And from that experience, you asked about how did I come to write the books. Well, it took me about 2 or 3 months to come down off of the challenges that I had begun to absorb, the stress and the toxic remnants of my work life at the time. And I said, okay, God, I've had enough. 3 months is good. I'm fine. What do I do now? And all I heard Him say was right. Now, in the meantime, there was a mentor that I had, and he said, well, you just can't sit there and do nothing. You have to do something with what you have. The amount of knowledge you have, you should not just keep it to yourself. So he said, oh, people, you can write a book real quick. Ha, little did he know. Little did he know what he was setting off. Long story short, I started to write, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And the book, the whole thing came up to about 600 pages. And somebody said to me, nobody's going to read that. So not in today's climate. And what you need to do is you need to shorten it. And I was like, no, because all of the stuff that's in there is what God told me to write. So what I ended up doing was breaking the book into 3 parts. And that is what became the Hardwired to Lead series that you referenced. The 3 parts are the power secrets. When you talk about the challenges, the hurdles, the discrimination, all of the what I call undiscussables that women experience and nobody really wants to talk about. I brought that to the table in terms of image, the professional image that, where you used to hear, oh, we don't see you as the face of the organization, so we can't give you this position, or, all right, you can have the position, but somebody else has to be the spokesperson, those kinds of things. So professional image is one. Gender bias and discrimination is another. I talk about the church and how that gender bias and discrimination is perpetuated and taught and practiced in the church. I talk about sexual harassment, which
Now
is
that's all book 1.
Yeah, that's one. That's
Oh
book
my
1.
goodness. Okay.
Yes, and I'll tell you why that's in book 1. Because those are the secrets that we keep.
Okay.
The non-disclosure agreements that we have with the corporation as well as with ourselves keeps us as women silent, and we don't talk about that. And then I frame it in domestic violence because I have a counseling background, and one of the things that came to mind was that, as I was writing, it was like, wait a minute, everything that's in here fits the 9 domestic violence behaviors that were identified by the Duluth model. The economics, the sexual harassment, the isolation, the physical, emotional, mental abuse, all of those things were prevalent and present
In the workplace.
in
Yes.
the workplace.
Yes.
So that was one. And then I framed it in the Equal Rights Amendment and the failure of this country after 200 and almost 250 years not giving women their equal rights. It has not been ratified to this day. So at the end of that, then I went to the second volume, which is A Culture of Silence. And I break out silence and how it begins to happen early on in our lives, because we have a voice when we're born. In fact, that's how they know we're alive. And if we don't cry out when we're born, what do?
Yeah.
They tap your bottom to make you cry, to verify the fact that you are a living being. So your voice is the first evidence of your life. And I took that and I showed them how, as little children, they silence you after you learn how to talk and everything. And they teach you, then they tell you, all right, be quiet. Can't hear. Oh, just be quiet. You talk too much, that kind of stuff. And so I break down silence and make it like a person. So I personified silence, and I look at all the ways that it can be brokered between individuals, between workplace and the individual, between the leader and the follower, and between men and women. at the end of the day. And I talk about metaphors for women's leadership, the non-disclosure agreements, and why women have such a hard time even understanding at times what is happening to them in the corporate space because they haven't studied or thought of it long enough to even understand. And they think it's only them,
Right.
right? And if you think it's only you, guess what? You're not going to want to talk about it because you're ashamed, you're guilty, you're embarrassed. And, maybe something is wrong with me and you're looking everywhere else, except that the truth, which is that leadership culture can be toxic. And
Absolutely.
some companies are structured with stress, pressure, and abuse.
And you walking away from that after being in it, I'm sure you went through the stages of grief because you had been there. You talked about not being able to do much for 3 months. And so
Yes.
you went through those stages of grief. You probably even started with the denial. I can't believe this is actually happening to me, you
Yes.
know.
How could it, right?
Yes, how could it? Look at
But
me. I've got all this that
listen,
I offer, and look at me, and this is happening to me. So the denial,
yes.
and
And
then
so, having the degrees I had, having the knowledge I had, and to know that there were people that didn't appreciate what I brought to the table, who in fact
mhm,
wanted to denigrate and dismiss
mhm, mhm.
all that I had achieved in order to make themselves feel comfortable and good,
Of
right?
course, of course.
And yes, it was de-stressing, de-traumatizing myself,
Yeah.
allowing the Holy Spirit to just wash some of that stuff off of
Yes.
me, because after things come at you over and over, I say
Yes.
they kind of stick. Um,
Yes.
and as a person, my request was, Lord, how do I get this off of me? How do I get it out of me? And the books are the result. It's
Right.
how He worked on me to get me to be where I am today.
Yes. Yes. And
And I tell you, it did take a while. It took me 2 years to write the books. Okay. I kind of laugh and I tell my mentor at that time, you had no idea what you started
but
when
it
you
was
told me just
cathartic
write the
for
book.
you. Yes, it was a cathartic experience for you
Yes.
because you were able to get all of that was inside of you on paper. And now those books are going to help so many other people.
That
And
is my hope.
when you consider a job is 1/3 of your life, and
Well, that's
when
the problem.
yes,
That's the problem.
1/3 of your life. And when it is not in sync, or when you're under a lot of duress and stress in a job, it will affect how you eat, how you sleep, how you relate to yourself,
Everything.
how you relate to other people. People don't understand. And so we wonder why people stay in toxic work environments or relationships, because I see how the
Mhm.
two tie in together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you do it for regular, normal reasons,
Yeah,
right?
I have
Um,
to live.
family benefits. You need
Yes,
the salary. You need,
yes.
there's so many reasons you can convince
Justify,
yourself
yeah.
to
In either
stay.
situation, yes,
There you go. There you
yes,
go. And the third book, because most individuals who come out of traumatic and domestic violence situations, they sometimes need reconstruction, physically, and most certainly emotionally and psychologically. And
absolutely.
so the third book, which gives solutions for leadership culture, for the workplace, for women, for leaders who are executives who are learning, it tells you how to learn, what you need to be aware of, and what needs to happen if the organization is going to be inclusive enough for women's leadership and women who are hardwired to lead to thrive. And I always say, if women thrive, everybody thrives.
Absolutely.
And we missed the point, I think intentionally, but there is a reality that is borne out statistically that companies where women are in the C-suite and or CEO, they have a 21 to 30% advantage in terms of profitability, revenue generation. They have
Productivity.
innovation intensity, so creativity is huge. In those companies, they make faster decisions, they make better decisions. There's high employee engagement, employee satisfaction. So I know some of us as women, as we move upward, we also adopt the masculine traits that can be abusive, just like the people who have abused us. That is, it's true in life, but it's also true in the workplace.
Yes, it is.
And
Absolutely.
mhm, and wanting to make sure that people are aware of that. And so those are the three books.
Okay, and let me recap what you said. So the first book is dealing with the
Yes.
secrets that we keep inside of us because number one, we think we're the only one that this is happening to. And
Mhm.
number two, we don't really know how other people are going to receive, respond, or react
That's right.
to those secrets that
That's right.
we feel necessary to keep inside. And so your book helps us to understand those secrets have got to come out. You've got to be able
That's
to
right.
express. You've got to feel empowered enough for that to happen. And then your
Absolutely.
second book was silence, you know,
Yes.
being silent. And a lot of times, and a lot of times we go from being extroverted type personalities talking and speaking to becoming more
We
introverted,
fold in.
and we
Yes.
fold in because we're hearing you talk too much, think before you speak, or be
Mhm.
quiet. A, a child's stay in a child's place, and those
Yes.
kinds of things. And so that can cause a child that may be expressive to become silent. And so your book is
And
going to
that's especially true for girls and women, right? They don't tell the boys be silent. They don't tell them, you two, you too bossy. They don't tell you, oh, you need to have some more respect and stuff like that. They say, oh, that's cool. Oh, what a leader. How wonderful is that? Imagine what our world would be like if we did that for women too, the little
just
girls.
imagine,
They
just
would blossom.
imagine. Yes, they would,
Mhm.
and the world would
The
blossom
world
as a
would
result.
blossom.
And then then your third book gives solutions,
Yes.
solutions to overcome the silence, solutions to overcome the secrets, solutions to be empowered so that
Yes.
you can, in fact, lead
Hmm.
according to God's plan and purpose for your life. And
That's correct.
so that's awesome. I want to go back to what you said at the beginning about the exchange student. And that's
Yes.
when you, at 11 years old, that's when you first sense this need to do something about equality. So, where was this exchange student from? And can you kind of share some of the topics or the discussion that made you feel that way?
Okay, so our family in Aruba, it happened in Aruba. Um, our family would host exchange students from a variety of countries. This young man actually was from Africa. I don't remember what country it was, so that's probably a good thing. But my parents brought us up. My father specifically taught us to be independent as girls and to get your own degree, get your own job, make sure you can take care of yourself. And I am grateful to this day that
Yes.
he taught us that. But in that space, before I even got there, it was like girls are not supposed to do this and girls are not supposed to do that. And, all of those things. And I found myself defending why girls were supposed to be able and allowed to be what they were And if that meant leading or working or doing something other than staying home, that would be okay too, right? And that's where the argument back and forth would come, over dinner or just, talking in the yard or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's where it would have come from. And it
Okay.
really was about the gender roles and the categories that society had ascribed or prescribed
Yes.
for us as
Yes.
women. And my talking was out of the mold, because I am proud to say I won the argument. But it began to bud in me need to defend women and women's leadership and women's competence, capabilities, their skills, their knowledge and abilities. And, come full circle, I think it was back in 2009, I actually, I had gone to Oxford University for a retreat like weekend, and the presentation I made on the floor of the debate stage, same place where Benazir Bhutto and the rest of them stood when they did their debates. I argued lead, leadership and the burden of proof for women.
Wow.
And we have that burden of proof still hanging over
Yes.
us
Yes.
today.
Yes.
The bar always goes a little higher than you can jump. The hurdles and the challenges always bring the mark a little further than you're able to, no matter how much you've done.
Absolutely.
And you understand then that it's not just you, right?
Right.
There's other stuff happening.
Yes. Which reminds me of what our new Supreme Court Justice
Okay.
had to go through with her hearings. And
Oh,
it was,
that
but that's a good example
it's
of,
a classic example of what competent, well educated, accomplished, and ambitious women of color, in particular,
yes,
have to face. The white woman will face it, but never at the
not
level
to the
of
degree.
vitriol that you saw directed
Yes,
at her. I tell you,
vitriol.
it was,
Absolutely.
I had to get up and walk away at times. If I could have reached through the TV, I would have shaken a few of them, because everybody understood what they were doing.
Yes.
And it seemed as if, even as leaders, we felt that we needed to allow them to abuse her.
And
And for me, that is way beyond the pale. Because I'm
absolutely.
thankful for Booker and the
Yes,
fact that he affirmed her and
yes,
just let her know, hey, sis, we got your back,
yes,
to help her make it through.
yes. But
But what I remember saying is that many executives today don't even have that.
right, that's true. And
Mhm.
more people should have rallied around her and they should have
That's right.
stopped that
They should have stopped
craziness.
them.
They should
Hmm.
have stopped it on a
Hmm.
dime, because it
Yeah.
was, and actually her calmness, her
Yes, it probably
professionalism.
irritated the heck out of them.
I know they were expecting her to be that angry black woman when
Oh yes.
she
Oh yes.
remained so calm and so reserved and
Yes,
so
and you could see the pity.
dignified.
You could see
Oh,
the pity on her face. It's like, come on, guys, you really gonna try this?
yes,
And you
exactly.
could see her looking, she didn't shake her head, but I was shaking my head for her.
Right, right. Just kudos to her for,
Yes, yes. I'm so proud of
she
her.
well represented. He went
Absolutely.
beyond representing, because so often, sometimes it's really, really hard
It is
to
difficult.
maintain a calmness when you're
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
midst of all this stuff.
Yes.
It reminds me of when I served on a board, and I was
Oh,
the only
yes.
I was the only Black on that board. And there was an event that
Mm-hmm.
was predominantly all white, right?
Yes.
And where they had me positioned at the door, and I probably shouldn't have said this, and it probably was the reason was not on the board much longer. But I went to the board meeting, and I mean, because I just felt it, I could feel
Yes. You
how
can
these
feel it.
people were treating me, and I'm a
Mm-hmm.
board member, right? And I said, and in the meeting, and I've never shared this before, but I
Okay.
said in the meeting, I felt like the spook that sat next to the door, because that's how they made me feel. You know,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
how I felt, and I
Mhm.
expressed it because it was so.
Palpable. You could feel it,
Yes,
touch it,
yes,
even though nobody
yes,
said anything.
yes. The way they look, the way, oh,
Mhm.
and we don't deserve that stuff, especially
No.
when we're in a position, because we earned that,
Yes, you
you
did. Of
know?
course. They would have never selected you if you did not qualify
Absolutely. And
or were
so,
overqualified, probably.
but I mean, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and having experienced it, which brings me to the conference that you've got coming up,
Yes.
Hardwired to Lead. So
Hmm.
let's kind of talk about this conference, and what people can expect to receive, and the format, because your format is different
Yes.
from most conferences. So
Hmm.
let's talk about the format and what people can expect, or how they can even get involved.
Yeah. I am truly excited, even though it's like a lot of work. I'm truly excited at the opportunity to bring this conference together. And what it is, it's called Hardwired to Lead, the Smart Executive Women's Conference Series. It's going to be over 2 weeks, 2 or 3 speakers each day. And I will be hosting and doing a live and moderating and whatever I need to do to keep the interest up. But the goal of that conference is to help executive women, leaders, and entrepreneurs figure out how they can accelerate their careers, how they can reposition their careers if they want to do something else or work in another industry, um, and how to leverage their skills to do that. And then how to reimagine your career. And the purpose of reimagining your career is if you can take all the skills and the goals that you have as an individual and you repurpose it to create and develop a company that you have always wanted to do because it finally is something that aligns with your purpose and you believe it would make you fulfilled. So, my perspective on this is that we've got to lead inclusively. It's five things from my position, and what I will talk about is to lead inclusively on purpose, right? Which is to maintain a leadership culture that is a place where everyone can thrive, including women who are ambitious, well educated, accomplished, and competent and capable of leading. The second is to re-energize, to realign, because there's so many women who are overworked, overwhelmed, undervalued, stuck in the corner, passed over for time after time after time. And you get burnt out, you get to a place where you may be stuck in that corner office that you thought was going to get you closer to that next step in the ladder, and or you find yourself when you get there that the ladder is up against the wrong wall. um, so if we can re-energize ourselves, we can find the passion to realign ourselves to our purpose. And when we realign ourselves to our purpose, then we are able to strategically prioritize our relationships, ourselves, schedule ourselves into our own calendars so
Yes.
that we have taken our self care and our well care up into the front. The reason for that is leaders don't lead well from empty. Just like cars don't run from empty, leaders don't lead well from empty either.
Yes.
And they, as individuals, need to be fully fueled or energized so that they can lead from their overflow, and the energy that they project onto the people that they are leading and motivating is positive energy. When they draw on that leader, their attitude, their temperament, their mindset is helpful to them. And then the third would be to take back your power. We have lost our power along the way. That whole section on silence and the secrets is all about other people taking your power from you.
Yes.
And so, in part, it is an invitation for women to reclaim their power. And
Yes.
as they reclaim their power, then they can begin to look at the skills and the portfolios that they have, assess the skills they have, understand their value as women. And then when they understand that value, they can then negotiate for the salaries that they deserve. They can
Yes.
come up and say, hey, I deserve this position, and here is why. And you even can ask for being appointed to the position rather than selected to the position.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yeah, there
There's a
is.
difference.
And there's a scripture that says we have not because we ask not. But
That's
before I even get into that, I want to acknowledge
yes.
some of the comments that we have.
Okay.
And Lashandra, she says, hi, sis. Lenora Barnes Baines, she's from New York. Thank you for
Okay.
listening, Lenora. And Lashandra Graves, thank you for tuning in and listening. And she said amen to one of the comments that you made about women taking on their power. And then she
Yes.
agreed, yes. Then she says, Vera, thank you, I appreciate it. And then
Yes.
she says, that's right, reclaim your power.
Hmm.
Reclaim your power.
Reclaim it. Hmm.
And you know, a lot of times we have not because we ask not. And so
That's
being
right.
able to walk into a company and let them know you need me here.
Okay.
I remember doing that. I was in California and I
Hmm.
was looking for work and I kept passing this one place and every time I kept passing it. And so finally I just went in. And
Okay.
so I asked, you know, they told me what they did. And so I said, well, do you have a component where you're preparing these people to do this stuff? And they said, no. I said, well, where is the owner? Can I speak to the owner, please? And
That's right.
so I went, and there was this little guy behind this huge desk, and he had the visitor's chair all the way at the far end.
Wow.
Yes. And so I'm talking to him, and then I asked him, well, do you have a component where you're doing this? And he said no. So I picked up the chair, I took it to the desk,
Okay.
looked him in his eye, and said, you need to hire me to do that. And he said,
Hmm.
we don't have any money. I said, you need to find the money
Find the
and
money.
hire me to do that. And
Yes.
that was on a Friday. That
Hmm.
Monday morning, he called me.
Wow.
Yes, and said, I've been thinking about you all weekend. I want you to come
Okay.
in because we're going to find the money. And they did. And so a lot of times we have not because we ask not. When you go
Yes.
into companies, ask questions. And then
That's
you
right.
can, by asking the questions, then you can fit yourself into it. This is where
There
you
you
need
go.
me, you know?
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely. I tell you, and that is when you know who you are, you know your skills, and you can walk in authority,
yes,
knowing and recognizing what you bring to the table and how you can leverage
absolutely.
it for your benefit and theirs, because it's both, yes,
Absolutely. And
as
this
well.
conference is going to be talking about things like that?
Yes, we're going to use personal stories. All the experts that I'm bringing together are going to be quite interesting, but we talk about personal stories, but we talk about key things that executives, women in particular, and entrepreneurs need to know so that they can lead at their best and most excellent level. And the conference format, I know you had mentioned that conference format is interview style. So it's not just a bunch of people that are standing up and delivering a presentation for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is, but it is interaction, just like much like how Vera and I are doing right now, talking and answering questions so that people can get to relax a little bit and take action after the key points are brought out. And let me tell you, I did two interviews today. Y'all are in for a treat. Um, we're talking about image, how to dress for authority. We're talking about how to develop greatness in your children, the same greatness that you develop in yourself. Can you translate that to your children? We're going to be talking about performance and how to bring that to the table. We're going to be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, Black faces in high places. So it's gonna be a ride, and y'all need to be there. Is
That's
what I will say.
that's
I'm
awesome.
excited about it, and I really hope that you would register and that you would be there. I'm still looking for some speakers. Um, the speakers in particular that I'm looking for are anyone with a law degree that can speak to intellectual property and not just the copyright, but getting the rights for your trademarks and those kinds of things. I want individuals to know that your knowledge is worth something, and people will not hesitate to take from you that which you have not claimed for yourself.
Amen.
And so I am looking for a lawyer who is willing to spend 30 minutes um, to speak to executives who expend their intellectual property on behalf of the organization, and for entrepreneurs who are putting their intellectual property out in the public and wanting to know how they can safeguard that knowledge so that they can benefit from it and other people can't take it from them.
Amen. Amen. So, if you're listening out there and you are an attorney who can address these issues,
That's right.
please contact her. Her email
Yes.
address, info at drcarmelananton.com, or you can call her,
Yes.
or you can go to her website, or you can go connect with her on any social media
Any social
platform.
media. Mhm.
And so, again, if you are an attorney that can address these issues, and I may know someone that actually, I met someone just recently who works for the for the government and
Yes.
trademarks. And
Mhm.
so,
I'll take that too. Somebody
I,
who it
I
is so it's such a real thing
it is.
that that it is critically important. We saw that you saw that with the music industry over the last several decades, where you have singers and songwriters and you're challenged because individuals,
Are taking
you
it
don't get the full amount of
right.
what belongs to you. And I want that for my executives. I want them to thrive. I want them to be fully creative, but I also want them to be fully blessed and
Yes.
abundant as a result of that. And that is my heart at the end of the day, right? To
Yes.
empower. And the last piece is to provide a safe space for any executive who is out there who may be struggling in that self isolation, that you're not sure who you can talk to, where you need to go. I have a what I call a leader sounding board, where you can come and you can just talk. I'll be your sounding board because I know sometimes it's necessary that individuals who have taken their lives or are struggling with their mental health because of the challenges that they are facing, and there's nobody that understands or wants to talk with them, or they don't trust individuals. And so that's an option that I provide as well.
That's awesome. And so will there be a component in the conference where people can reach out to you and discuss?
Yes, I'm looking to see if I can do one or two lives or Zooms in the evening where individuals who have specific questions, and I invite you as you listen to put the questions or put them in the Facebook group, for example, and we will endeavor to answer all of those questions either during the time frame or there will be a bonus session afterwards so that we can address specific questions and they're not left unanswered.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like this is going to be an awesome conference. And again, it's not like your typical conference where you've got all these speakers that are speaking back to back. She's doing that. It's a couple hours each day for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, that's correct. We have 28 speakers, 28 experts, practitioners, as well as those who have studied the various challenges that we have identified already. And they will be brought to the table 2 at a time. I say bite size because sometimes when we get a lot of information, we are overwhelmed. And so I ask people to take a single action from every one of those interviews that they listen to.
That's awesome.
And write it down and share with us what that action was and what the result of that action was as well. And
now when
I'm
will
truly
they be
excited.
When will they be able to give you that feedback?
Once the conference opens, the 9th of May is when we will open the conference and we'll air the first interviews. And from that point on, anyone who has registered for it will be dropped right into that Facebook group. So you can drop the questions there as well. If we find that we have questions that are directly targeted to specific speakers, I will ask for them to come in and see if they will answer some of those questions directly. That way I don't have to be the middle person.
Yes. And what is the website where they register? Where do they register?
It will be www.hardwiredtolead.com/conference. It's not live yet because I'm still waiting for some of my graphics to come back, but it will be up and running. Promotion is next week. So we will begin the promotion and registration and all of those things. And the conference goes live on the 9th, Monday, the 9th of May, 2022.
Okay, and it's
at noon.
At noon. Okay, www.hardwiredtolead.com/conference. Is that it?
Hardwiredtolead.com/.
Oh, okay.
Conference.
I'm putting it in the chat so that people will see it. Okay.
And I better remember what it is to make sure.
Right. And let me also put it on a banner. Ooh, wrong. Okay, let me go back to the comments. Oh, it says an error occurred. Okay. So let me go do it and put it on the banner. Okay.
Yeah, it's informational and perhaps it's not live yet. Because we are testing it right now, making sure all the buttons work and all the things are connected. Yes.
Okay.
But it should be live this weekend.
Oh, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I will post it once it is.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime,
yes,
I've added. Oh, okay. I've got too many banners going on, so I got to eliminate something. So in order to make this work.
Or don't,
Okay.
it's not live anyway, so
Right,
that would
right.
be one way. Or
Or they can
just
just
let
connect.
people will know that that's what the site, what is it, the site URL will be, and look to hear that it is live.
Okay. And as soon as it is, I will post it as well.
Okay.
And I will also announce it here
Okay. Thank you. I
as
appreciate
well.
that. And I want to say thank you, Vera, very much. I don't want you to escape before I say thank you.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much. You've been my angel, and I really appreciate all that you're doing to get the word out as well. And I look forward to running the replay of this as well, so that people can hear and see and know who you are as well.
Oh,
And
thank you.
y'all need to come and listen to Vera's segment,
Thank you.
her
I will be
interviews.
posting when I will be on.
Yes,
So I'm excited, and I'm honored that you wanted to include me in this as well. I really am.
absolutely.
And so we oh, another thing that we mentioned before we came online, you are multilingual. And so talk
Yes.
about that.
Well, it's like this. um, so I was born in Aruba. All my formal education uh, was in Dutch, which is when I say formal, it's the elementary. And I was sharing with Vera that even now, if I am under stress or I have to like think very quickly or do math very quickly, I'll do it in Dutch because that's how I learned it. Um, Many individuals from Aruba are multilingual. I've lost some of the languages that we did learn because we're very, very cosmopolitan. So I still speak a little bit of Spanish. I've had the interesting privilege of translating services into Spanish for Spanish members and so on. So it's been an interesting journey. I don't find many individuals who speak Dutch here, but I'm probably in the wrong place and need to be up more towards Indiana and that area. I heard because that's where the
Mm.
tulips are and the windmills.
Oh, wow.
So I just need to, I will visit just to be sure. But yes, so the only little bit of Dutch that I have now, I can still read it and write it, but I can't turn my tongue around it as well as I used to.
Well, that's amazing that you are bilingual or multilingual.
Yeah.
And I'm sure being an international speaker and trainer, that some of that helps you as you're doing your travels and what have you.
Absolutely. And um, yes and no, right? So it's quite interesting. But I will say that I've traveled nevertheless to places like India and Hong Kong and China and Malawi and the Bahamas. So I've always had a pull for diversity and visiting different cultures and so on. And I did that before virtual would carry us, right?
Yes,
So I
yes,
went in person. And
that's
so
awesome.
it's a wonderful privilege to share with people how awesome God was when He created the world and He made it as diverse as He did.
Yes. And so people need to understand God did this, not us. And
Yes,
so, and
don't
so,
blame me.
right, right.
It's the one that did it.
Exactly. And diversity, that's one reason why I love Atlanta, because there are just people from
Yes.
all walks of life, different
Mhm.
countries. And it's just
Oh, yes.
diversity is beautiful. It's
It is
beautiful.
beautiful. It is beautiful. It is powerful and it is impactful.
Yes, all of
And
that.
if we can grasp all of that and harness it, to help us function better, the possibilities are limitless.
It is. And a chain is as strong as its weakest link.
Got
And
that right.
because we have in this country chosen to allow
That's right.
bias, prejudice,
Mhm.
racism, that is our weak link. And
Yeah,
we need to understand that we will implode if we
yes,
don't begin to look at each other as equals,
that's right.
women,
Mhm.
people of color, I mean, everybody brings something to the table. Everybody
Everybody
brings something
brings
to the table.
something to the table. If you have, I have traveled and I look at the gifts, it's most clearly evident in terms of art and artifacts that individuals create. So for some people,
Yes,
it's the architecture. For other people, it's the paintings. For other people, it's metal work. It is
yes,
basket weaving.
yes,
It is what else to do? Woodwork, the
yes,
fabulous carvings, stonework, the carvings that people have. It is amazing. And
yes,
what is interesting about the diversity is one country does not do all of
uh,
it.
absolutely.
Different countries have their specialties
And
based on the
yes,
location where they are,
yes, yes,
right?
yes.
I tell you, God had a plan.
He had a plan, and we just need to walk in
We
his
need to get with the
plan.
plan.
Get with the plan, people. Get with the
Oh my
plan. Well,
God.
you know what? We've got 4 minutes. And so I'm going to give you the floor
Mhm.
and let you say, talk about the conference, give some nuggets, share something, an action that we might be able to do as a result of our conversation here
Yeah.
today. So what
Mhm.
would you encourage us to do? And I'm just going to give you the floor. So let me shut up.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity. And what I want to leave you with is that you are a unique individual. I talk about diversity because of the reality that each of us brings and was given, sent to earth with diverse gifts. And many times we are in places and spaces and workplaces where they want you to fit in. And I'm here to be the spoiler alert and tell everyone that you're not intended to fit in. The intention was that you would stand out and that you would add value to whatever situation or circumstance that you might be in or you might be leading in. And that is critical because what works for you won't work for me necessarily. What you can accomplish, I can't accomplish necessarily. What you are gifted to do, I will not be able to do necessarily, but the reverse is true as well. And so each and every one of us brings to the table something that is unique and necessary because I think of teams. And if we consider teams, everybody on the team can't do the same thing. We need to have individual skills, diversity of skills, knowledge, and ability for the team not only to function like a well oiled machine, but also to win. And we are highly competitive as a country and as individuals. Then we need to be focused on diversity as the new business imperative so that we can win. And as a unique individual, I want you to know you're a one of a kind original. What rest looks like for you, you determine. What success looks like for you, you determine. And what skills you can bring to the table to start that company of yours, you can determine that too if that is your desire. So I hope to see you at the conference. I hope to answer more questions that individuals bring to the table. And part of what I would like to see is not only women getting into leadership positions 30% by 2030, but I also want the kind and caliber of woman who is able to see somebody's crown that is crooked and straighten it and not let anybody else know.
Amen. I love
And
it.
for me, that is phenomenal.
Amen. I love it. I love it. I love it. And again, the conference begins on May 9th.
That's correct.
And it will run from May 9th until the 22nd.
That is correct.
Okay. Oh, good memory, Vera.
Yes, you
So,
did good.
May 9th to May 22nd.
That's
at
right.
12
Every day,
noon.
a marathon.
Every day at 12 noon.
Yes.
Yes. So listen, thank you all for listening. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Nanton, for being here with me. And we will continue to promote your conference and possibly even have you back before or during the conference.
Yes.
If
Perhaps
time will
during or
permit.
so. Absolutely.
Yes.
Especially if they want to ask questions for you.
Yes, that would be great. We can
That
make
would
that
be
work.
fabulous.
Let's make that happen. Well,
Yes.
listen, thank you all for listening.
Thank
and
you.
Dr. Nanton, if you would just hold on, don't just go away, okay? All right. So thank you all, and we will see you next week.
The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.